so we'll continue. I'll call the meeting back to order. We're now back in session. We now move to public hearing number 3. Public hearing number 3 is the possible UDO amendments, and Amanda Bunce is presenting.
Okay, so this is actually an application from the Olive Chapel Swim and Tennis Club to amend the UDO for these changes. The changes are to 8.6.3 illumination standards and 8.6.4I sports and athletic field lighting, as well as the addition, and this is the primary new item, 8.6.4J private recreation facility lighting, in order to clarify existing exceptions to lighting levels for athletic facilities and to increase the amount of lighting permitted on ball fields and sports courts at private recreation facilities subject to specific conditions. Just for reference, this is one part of the 8.6.3. No changes are proposed to this table, but it just shows general lighting levels in multifamily, office, industrial areas. The only change to the second part, second table in this section, is other exterior lighting standards. And currently we have general recreational areas, fields, playgrounds, courts, and pools. This does not direct you to the current section related to sports and athletic field lighting, nor to the proposed new section. So we are proposing to, the staff work with the applicant on the proposals to make sure we get everything lined up and in the ordinance that for clarification purposes, should the council choose to approve it. So these asterisks at fields and courts point you to the sections that allow for exceptions to the 10-foot candle standard. So as you can see, general recreational areas have a maximum of 10-foot candles unless exceptions are granted based on these conditions.
And before we continue, I'd like to maybe just state a quick point here. So during the break, we had a few new people sign up. I want to make sure that you've been properly informed as to what you've signed up to speak about tonight. So I would like everyone to make sure you're paying attention. This is about UDO amendments. So make sure that whatever comments you have prepared tonight, that they're relevant to the amendments that we're presenting on the screen. All right? Thank you. Feel free to continue, Amanda.
Okay. So the only change in 8.6.4I, sports and athletic field lighting, is the addition of the words "and sports courts." This sports and athletic field lighting is town parks, athletic facilities, not the amenity centers located within neighborhoods. And so no other changes, to the standards are proposed. The new section is private recreation facility lighting. Private recreation facilities are the UDO term for amenity centers. And the standards here are modeled off of the standards for sports and athletic field lighting, although we maintain the maximum height of the poles at what the lighting section already sets as the maximum height for light poles within town at 35 feet. There's a requirement that fixtures must be fitted with the manufacturer's glare control package, and if the manufacturer does not have a glare control package, the fixture specification must be changed to a manufacturer that offers a glare control package. Number 3, fixtures must be designed and aimed so their beams fall within the primary playing area and the immediate surroundings so that off-site direct illumination is significantly restricted. Spillover levels at the property line must not exceed 0.3-foot candles onto residential properties. And I'll point out that that standard is also our standard for all other uses within town that locate adjacent to residential uses. 0.3-foot candles is the maximum. Lighting shall be extinguished no later than 10 p.m. A 10-foot type A buffer shall be required along any property line of the private recreation facility when such lighting fixtures within 100 feet of a residential use. And this is the key point. Such lighting shall be proposed at the time of master subdivision plan or site plan approval for new private recreation facilities. Approval of a special use permit and a revised site plan lighting sheet and landscape sheet are required for any proposal to exceed illumination standards of this section at an existing private recreation facility. So the key is the proposed UDO amendment gives an opportunity for existing facilities or facilities within existing neighborhoods to request of town council to approve additional lighting that exceeds that 10-foot candles. It's not an automatic. It would only be able to be approved by staff if it was new construction, a new subdivision, new amenity center. So I just wanted to point out that distinction. Planning staff has reviewed the proposed UDO amendment and recommends approval. The planning board heard these amendments at their April 9th meeting and recommended approval with a vote of 5 to 1. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, questions for Amanda?
Were there any notes from the planning board regarding the one?
There was not.
All right, thank you, Amanda. All right, this time I'll open the public hearing, and again, I'll ask and remind, if you are here to speak about what was presented, then your comments are going to be relevant tonight. If you're here to speak about something other than what's presented, then your comments may be considered irrelevant. So I would like to remind you of that, because I know there may be a situation where you want to come and talk about something else or something similar, but I just want to keep you on track. With that, Mr. Chris Davies is up first, followed by John, is it Stanley? Staley? Okay, all right. So Mr. Davies, as you come up, just as a quick reminder, we'll ask everybody to state their name and address for the record, and then also observe the lights. And Mr. Davies, you circled that you are representing 4 or more people here tonight. So let me see the hands of those people who Mr. Davies represents tonight, who he is speaking for. Now, let me also ask, if you just raise your hand, that means that he's speaking for you, which means you're not coming up to speak. Is that correct? Okay. All right, Mr. Davies, with that regard, you have 9 minutes as our guideline states. Feel free to proceed, sir.
Thank you. My name is Chris Davies. I live at 1502 Yellow Rainbow Court in Apex, North Carolina. I'm here to provide some background as to why we are applying for the UDO amendment. I'm the president of the Olive Chapel Swim and Tennis Club, and as you saw, a number of our members are here tonight in favor of this amendment. We appreciate your time and consideration to this important matter of the club. The residents of Dogwood Ridge 1, Dogwood Ridge 2, and Pearson Farm subdivisions represent 770 or so homes and thousands of individuals. So the background is that after numerous open meetings of our club board of directors, we determined to add lighting fixtures as part of a needed court refurbishment that we began about 2 years ago. We hired Court One, local respected court construction company, to renovate the courts, provide and install a state-of-the-art LED lighting system, and handle the permitting process with the town of Apex. The lights that we installed are nothing like older style lights that you see around town. I think they're probably even more advanced than the lights that are at the skate park across the street. They prevent excess spillage in all directions. They provide a very focused beam, as some of you have seen in person. The new system reduces energy consumption by about 50% over conventional system, and the light color is very good, and it's very precise with very little overspill. We installed glare shields at the request of the town, and an automatic cutoff timer for 10 p.m. We obtained a permit from the town as required. Inspections were completed, and a meter was installed to connect us to the grid. We understand now that the permit was issued without review by the Department of Planning and Community Development because it was a single trade permit. Because of our situation, this process has been updated to prevent future errors. After installation, we were informed that the town had determined that the foot candles were in excess of the standard in the UDO. The club has since worked with staff to find a reasonable resolution, considering the project was permitted and inspected by the town. We are proposing a UDO amendment to address lighting standards for private recreational facilities. This approach is supported by the staff and planning board and bridges a gap in the UDO for private recreational facilities and sports fields and courts, which may require higher illumination standards for safe play. You will note that Section 8.6.4J6 provides for a special use permit required for any existing recreational facility like our club. This will provide a path for the club to pursue the use of lighting system as permitted by the town and constructed, and it also provides a realistic framework for the needs of private recreational facilities going forward. The club requests your support for the amendment now, and eventually your consideration of a special use permit. I do have a petition that we are currently working on. We have about 80 signatures from homes, and that is 80 homes, not 80 people in the neighborhood, and that list is growing every day as we continue to gather those signatures. I'd like to take a minute or so and address your question about the dissenting vote at the planning board. It appeared that there was a misunderstanding, and we were unable to provide our feedback at the time. The planning board member had gone on to the Dogwood Ridge HOA website and downloaded the rules for the neighborhood. But in that it said that dealt with the pool at kind of arm's length, and it indicated that it was possible for the pool and tennis club to have members that came from outside the neighborhood. However, there's a unique structure of our club. We actually represent several neighborhoods, so the swim and tennis club has its own board of directors, and so the concern from the planning board member was that people who live near the courts might be affected by non-residents playing in the club. But I'd like to assure you that that is not the case. We do not open membership to anyone outside of our neighborhoods, and that seemed to be the crux of the concern from the planning board member. Are there any questions?
Well, it's your 9 minutes, so it's not a Q&A.
My statement is done, yes. Yep.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davies.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, Mr. Staley.
Good evening. I'll be very brief. My name is John Staley. I live at 1004 Manderston Lane in Cameron Park, part of the Dogwood Ridge 2 Homeowners Association and the All Trappers Home Club. I'm an anomaly in the neighborhood in that I've been there for 13 years and not the 5 that they talked about earlier. I just wanted to provide my support for the change tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Staley. I have Ella Snyder next. Ms. Snyder, you say you represent 4 or more people who are present. Are they different 4 people? Where's Ms. Snyder?
Sorry, I don't think I have anything to add.
All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you, Ms. Snyder. Stan Thompson?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Stan Thompson. I live at 3033 White Cloud Circle. If I can just take a minute here to pop up. Hit the escape. Just minimize that. At the bottom. To the left. There you go. I like to have this image up while I speak. My name is Stan Thompson. I live at 3033 White Collar Circle. This is a view from the courts, and this is the building that I live in that you can see from the court. So you can see how myself and the 5 other residents who live in this building are being affected. My speech is almost going to be an exact rebuttal for Mr. Davies. A lot of things that he said you'll hear me speak about will be a rebuttal to him. In this case, the applicant wants to amend the UDO because they have basically an illegal structure, and they're misleading people into believing that they did nothing wrong. They only want the UDO to change so that their illegal structure can become legal. The premise is that we installed the lights and now we can't use them. It's the town's fault. But hopefully I can prove that the fact is this is a self-created problem and it's their fault. There's been a lot of propaganda. They never sent any communication from the Homeowner Association Board to consider adding the lights. I never was notified about it until I went up there and walked and I saw that the construction was taking place, along with several other members of my neighborhood. Now that the lights are installed and we have an issue, They sent out a newsletter, and they're using Facebook and other social media, asking many residents, which some of them are here tonight, to come out and support their cause. They claim that the lights save money. Well, no, they don't. They actually cost the homeowner association more money because playing during the day costs no utilities, nor is there any need to maintain extra light fixtures for capital. They claim that they're state-of-the-art. The only thing state-of-the-art about them is the price of $80,000. You can buy 2 or 3 vehicles for that price. Vehicles have a lot more technology and usefulness than lights on the poles. If you'll excuse me, I'm getting very parched. Number 3, issues about obtaining the permits of approval. There was never a final certificate of occupancy issued. And as far as completing an exempt plate plan, they did that after the construction. That's like putting the cart before the horse. And nobody can explain why this was even allowed. The general contractor never got a permit, and now we have missing evidence because the subcontractor that they keep talking about got his permit. That particular application is claimed to be lost. This application would show that the planning department should have approved it with a check-a-box for a planning approval date. It's very explicit on there that it needs to go through planning. How is this the town's fault? Mr. Stocks at the variance meeting said, and he's a member of the Board of Adjustments, I do lighting by design, by trade, and I know that I need to meet the UDO lighting ordinances everywhere I do lighting design, and this is part of my job. Also, I don't know where this is going to lead, but the club board of directors made an observation during sunset on April the 12th.
Mr. Thompson, I need you to wrap it up. Your time is up.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
You got one more sentence, and then you need to stop.
Put yourself in my shoes, please, and have mercy for those people who live next to the facilities. A lot of these people here supporting this come from afar, and people do come from other neighborhoods and call in defense. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. All right, this time I'll call Leonard Jeffries.
Hello, my name is Leonard Jeffries. I live at 3019 Silky Dogwood here in Apex. And I would just like to state that when you take a instrument out there to measure the lights, it's actually 80-foot lumens that are out on the sewer court. And they said that there's a glare package. However, as you can see from the picture here, if it's 80-foot lumens there, then there's going to be a lot of glare. It's not going to be .03 from the neighboring line. It'd be hard to say that. And I believe, as you can see in the late fall, winter, or early spring, there's not much of a barrier there. Those trees are bare of leaves, and that light is going to spill over, just like a flashlight does in a dark room, and go right into those rooms. And it's not that I live there, but I do share the concerns of the ones that do live there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jeffries. Ismail Saeed.
Hello, my name is Ismail Saeed. I live at 1603 Kelvington Place in Apex in the Pearson Farms neighborhood. I am going to have to change up a little bit based on, like I said, this is for the UDO and everything like that. But one thing I do like to say here is, we didn't move to Apex because of all the family amenities that are there, things that you can do with your kids at all times of the day, the parks and everything like that. We picked our neighborhood specifically because I love to play tennis. I learned to play when I was a kid and everything like that. My kid just turned 5. And that's the age I learned. I bought him his first racket. I like to play at night and everything like that because I work during the day. And on the weekends, I also have a business that I run that I'm not available during the day. So nighttime is the perfect time for me. I was very excited when we were getting lights on the court. I do recognize there was a mistake made with the permitting activation and process. I do view this, however, as an opportunity to correct the actions that are done. I think we've, as a neighborhood, have tried to do things correct, and our pool and swim team have tried as well. I think this is a reasonable compromise. I do question some of the things with the other neighbors. Same thing. My house backs up to a greenway, right? There's people walking all the time, right? My dog goes crazy. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Somebody's walking, especially in the winter when you can see straight through. It's a little bit annoying, but I knew that going in. right? So, you know, I do think there's a little bit of a concern there. You know, if you do buy a place next to a pool, it's going to be loud in the summer. If you buy something with tennis courts, there's going to be noise from that. There might be lights, there may not. The same thing, Apex could decide, you know what, we're going to light the greenways because somebody gets assaulted and we're going to put a light to make it safe. That's something I know going in that may happen, right? Change can happen, and you should know that when you work or when you live next to a public area. And again, the courts aren't truly public because they are people in the neighborhood. I think the neighborhood board is doing the correct thing as far as trying to petition neighbors. Maybe that should have been done beforehand and everything like that. I've had to deal with permitting issues and stuff like that in other municipalities. I understand that mistakes happen. It's unfortunate because our neighborhood and pool board did make a fairly substantial commitment. The bottom line with lighting and everything like that, for me, the brighter the better, I would say, you know, but it's limited by 10 o'clock, right? That is a noise ordinance, that's, you know, your general quiet safety hours and everything like that. So I do think there's a lot of value in having it. You know, kids can be safer, you can see what they're doing, people do play at the courts at night regardless, and everything like that, but we keep it at 10, or police can come and respond to the scene for noise violation and everything like that. I know my time's running out, but I just want to say I think it is a good idea to have lighting on the courts, and really appreciate the approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Said. Jennifer Iglesias.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Iglesias. I reside at 1005 Pearson Farms Road in Pearson Farms, obviously. I am here in support of the amendment. I am here representing my family. I have a husband and 2 children, and we use those courts probably 3 times a week. We play pickleball, and we play tennis, and we also play basketball. So when we found out about these lights, we were very excited because we work during the week, and it's very difficult for us, especially in the winter, to find time during the day, and this was going to allow us to be there in the evening. One more thing I'd like to add is that where I reside, you can actually see the courts from my residence, and I have witnessed the lights on. For me, it is not a matter. I do understand that if you're living directly in front, it's going to make a difference. My daughter also does swim team, so the lights are on during the summer, and I know that most of those residents that are residing there, they have to endure those lights, so they're probably accustomed to that. But again, because I reside so close, you can see the lights from my house, and I just want to say that for me, it doesn't make a difference for us. I understand the discussion of spillover, but for us, it's not an issue at all. I think the benefits of having the lights are so much more than what we're talking about today. And I also think that there's a lot of children in the neighborhoods that would really, really benefit from this. I walk my dog next to these courts probably 3 times a day. I see the courts filled with kids, filled with people who love to play basketball. I think it makes for a very positive activity for these kids because, of course, during the winter months, the pool is closed, so this is going to offer them a very, very positive thing to do during the winter months when there's less activity and they can't swim. So I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Iglesias. And while our next person is coming up, could I ask IT if you could put back the amendment slide? So the next person was Terry, is it Hengies? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Terry Henges. I live at 1616 Royal Red Trail. I'm here representing my family as well as Olive Chapel Swim and Tennis Club. We moved to Apex. One of the things that attracted us to it was the sense of family that we felt when we visited. The neighborhood we moved into in Dogwood Ridge has proved to be that. My kids have grown up and grown close to families and developed friendships in the neighborhood. and a lot of it centered around the pool and the courts that are at issue here as a result of the amendment at issue. My family, we have 5 children, so my wife and our kids spend a lot of time at those courts and could utilize the extra time in the evenings, given work schedules, that would be made available by the lights. I'm not sure where the information came from about outsiders being used, but it's a closed club, and we have keys issued. I've never seen any strangers climbing over, as far as that being an extra impact. But personally, and for family, and by extension the rest of the neighborhood, the amendment of this would be greatly beneficial, making outdoor activities that we could utilize more often, or for extended periods because of the lights.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hinges.
Yeah, thank you.
Will Scudder.
Good evening. My name is Will Scudder. I live at 1117 Capitata Crossing, Apex, North Carolina, which is in the Dogwood Ridge portion of the subdivision. I would like to give a perspective from the youth of our area. I am going to be a third-year lifeguard this summer at the pool. I'll be assuming a managerial position. And it will be my second year being an assistant coach for the swim team at the pool. After my shifts last year at the pool, when there was actually a period of time when the lights were on, I would get off work or at the pool around 8 o'clock every night. And at that time, when it was getting dark, almost every time I would go out of my shift, I would notice that there was always guys playing basketball around my age. And just kind of putting my support for the lights would be that the guys that are similar to my age, the time spent there at the courts during the night is better than what they could be spending elsewhere, especially during the summer and nighttime hours, just for somewhere from my age and my connection with the youth in my neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scudder. And that concludes our public hearing tonight, so I'll close the public hearing. Refer the matter back to council at this time. Before we engage in discussion or possible motion, I'd just like to remind the council we're not voting on whether or not there are lights at the Olive Chapel Swim and Tennis Club. That's not what's in front of us today. What's in front of us today are some amendments that allow for the possible retrofit of an existing private facilities. Is that correct? And passing this does not necessarily mean that the Olive Chapel Swim and Tennis Club is able to continue doing what they're doing if their special use permit, which they would then have to subsequently apply for, is reviewed and found to be wanting. They may not be able to get a special use permit. So tonight, I just want to be clear, we're not voting on whether or not the lights can stay at that location. We're voting on whether or not the amendments that staff have presented provide a reasonable facility and process for a private facility to add lights after the neighborhood has already been constructed and the amenities are already in existence.
So I'll, I guess, open it with a question
Okay.
to staff. What generated the change? I mean, I know lights obviously have changed over, the course of history, but what generated kind of this change?
This UDO amendment specifically?
Lighting standards and...
Well, the swim club specifically requested the amendment because they needed a path in order to receive approval and usage of their lights. We looked at it then across the board because, of course, the UDO amendment is going to apply townwide. We also looked at other communities around this area and how they handle outdoor lighting at recreation facilities. And the amendment that staff worked with the applicant on is actually more restrictive than most other communities that we looked at. The level of lighting at the property line is lower, and we felt that there were enough protections with the standards proposed that to mitigate any potential impacts to nearby residential properties. And especially with regard to the special use permit process, which will require notification of all property owners within 300 feet of the amenity center. And what I failed to show earlier was just some examples of tennis courts. For example, there are some neighborhoods or clubs without any lighting at all, and some of which are very close to residential properties. Should they want to request lighting in the future, they may not even be able to meet the standards, one, they have to meet, such as providing the 10-foot type A buffer. So not all existing facilities may be able to even meet all the standards. So these are just examples of neighborhoods or clubs without lighting on the courts. There are some other neighborhoods and clubs that do have what we call minimal lighting. So you can see there's just a few poles. I don't have lighting levels specific to these courts. And some others that are not in Apex but nearby. And then there's others with extra lighting that would allow that high level of play at night. And you can see there's much more lights, and then the level of lighting at these facilities are much brighter. And some of these are within close proximity to residential structures. So it would give, the special use permit process gives the town council the ability to look at each site individually in the context that it is and decide whether it's appropriate, and also add more restrictive conditions if the council felt that it was necessary at that time.
So with this UDO amendment, what is this in the allowable, I guess, foot candles, or that's how you measure, is that how we're measuring it?
Right, so by right, athletic facilities or private recreation facilities can have up to 10 foot candles. If they want to exceed that, then they would go through this process. There's no cap on the foot candles at that point, except they have to meet that 0.3 foot candles at the property line. So in turn, that's going to limit the maximum level that's permitted on the actual court itself.
So the town follows our own standards, correct? Like on our public facilities?
The town is allowed to use the standards that are existing, and which allows the planning director to approve deviations subject to these conditions. And so there is no maximum level. Some of them do exceed 10 foot candles, but we make sure that that 0.3 foot candle, if it's adjacent to residential properties, we require a lighting plan for town facilities just like we do for private facilities.
So this UDO amendment, sorry, council, my last question here, regarding Pleasant Park and the ability to host regional tournaments and be a regional draw, are we putting restrictions on our lighting standards that would knock us out of qualifying for hosting any regional tournaments?
Absolutely not. In fact, we're not changing anything. We're simply in this section for what would apply to Pleasant Park, we're just clarifying that the lighting for ball fields and sports courts. So it's providing more clarity to that section. So there's no change that would affect a public park.
And if you don't mind, I know at the planning board meeting you compared 0.3 foot candles to other lighting examples so that non-lighting scientists can kind of visualize what 0.3 foot candles is. And the relevance is that's the maximum that can spill onto a residential property according to, what is it, J3? So can you re-give those examples for the council today?
Yes, so essentially moonlight, and that's a full moon on a clear night, is 0.02 foot candles. Twilight is about 1 foot candle. So you're significantly less lighting. That you can put that in perspective. So twilight would be about 1 foot candle. Moonlight, full moonlight, 0.02 foot candles.
So I had maybe a question and a suggestion in this. So I've tried to become a lighting expert today. I didn't know what foot candle meant, and I didn't know all this stuff meant. And I personally have no problem with the on-court lighting amounts, but I do have a concern about the glare that is coming off. And I don't think the spill luminance foot candle metric is enough to represent what somebody standing at the edge of the property is seeing in the court. 'Cause I think they're seeing not the lights coming in, but they're seeing the lights bouncing off the court, and that's coming in their eyes. And my suggestion was maybe this would make everybody mad if we delay this and look at it more, but the International Dark Sky Association, which is the light pollution minimizing in cities organization, they talk about the spill luminance, the foot candle amount. They use 0.2, but I don't think that's much different from 0.3. But they also talk about a glare metric, which is in lumens. And I think that's what you'd see if you're standing there and, looking at the court. Because it's going to look bright from the court. It's not going to be from the lights. It's going to be kind of horizontal light. And so, from the court. And so I was wondering, is there a consideration to adding another kind of unit that's not just what's happening at the ground like a foot candle is, but what's happening this way?
I've read what you've provided,
Yeah.
and I've done extensive research
Yeah.
on lighting ordinances in my career.
Yeah.
An expert's going to have to provide assistance to staff with this. This is not an easy standard to write. Requires a lot of research. What little bit of research I've done or on cities that have amended their ordinances, there are some competing interest in how you manage glare and still provide a quality level of lighting that may be needed at a certain facility. This is definitely something that I would not be prepared to write or offer a suggestion for at this meeting. And I do see what you're saying, because the glare that you're referring to is, I'm at a distance and I can see that that area is lit up brighter. It's not on my property.
Right.
But as I'm looking out my window or in my yard and I'm looking over there, I can see it better. But as far as the level of lighting that's actually intruding on my property, it's not increasing from the standard that we have today. So it's just what I'm able to see versus the impact that's actually where I'm at my property.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Right.
really your concern,
I
right?
think the Type A buffer addresses a lot of that, but it was clear when I went out there and looked around too. It was clear that some of those plants aren't going to be big enough to block the light. But my goal, if this thing passed, would be to hopefully they could put on a privacy screen on the fence. That would block the glare, a lot of it.
And that might be I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But that might be a possible condition that council could consider during a special use permit process, because it might not be necessary at every court or on every side of a court, but it may be necessary based on a case-by-case basis.
Well, for what it's worth, it seems more flexibility to have something like that versus the Type A may knock out some people, but if they put the glare thing on the fence, they may still be. I mean, it seems like it might add flexibility. I'm not sure. That would be something I would look for in a condition to minimize the glare impacts, or in a special use thing. Maybe that's the best.
In a permit application?
What?
In a permit application?
Yes. But as far as the lighting on the court, I think the better utility of the space, which the lighting would provide, to me is a net benefit. So I think what everybody said is I agree with that. That just the glare part is what
Sure, I understand.
my biggest problem.
All right. While you have the floor, are there any other thoughts, or from either council members, or is there a motion? Or do we need Amanda for anything else?
I guess my concern, I think, is a little bit of what yours was with respect to the Type A buffer, how tall it is at installation when this comes down. Because how tall are the plants required to be on a 10-foot buffer? I don't recall, but I think they're 6 feet or something.
Well, it depends on the planting. A Type A buffer has basically shrubs, small trees, and large trees. Shrubs are...
How many?
At installation?
Yeah, at installation, but, I mean, when you think about a red cedar, they're not touching each other when they're only 6 feet tall, so there will be gaps in between them. They typically take a few years to grow to actually be opaque.
Right, and then large trees are generally 12 feet at the time of planting, 10 to 12 feet, depends on species, I think, but, I'd have to consult the UDO. That we have planting standards, excuse me, in the UDO for all the planting types that are, required.
The one thing that with the, type A buffer, it is supposed to be opaque, but there's some plants in there that are deciduous, which means part of the year they're not, but I guess the shrubs, so long as they are all deciduous, like a holly or...
Is it evergreen? Mm-hmm.
And as long as, and the solution, I mean, you can't do it in 10 feet, but if you could stagger the shrubs such that they form a screen for the most part. But that's the one thing that I would like to see, and I guess we could require that or look at that at the time of an application.
You would be looking at that, revised site plan and the revised landscape plan would be required at the time of the special use permit request, and you would review that as part of the special use permit request.
And it does seem like a glare screen, like was suggested by Brett, would be a pretty well sure thing of getting rid of most of the light spillover, or the lumen situation if you're talking about glare. And I guess we can do that, is what you're suggesting,
In the permit application.
in the permit application.
That was my suggestion.
Yeah.
I don't have enough information to speak very much to that, so.
And there are other options as well. So you can have
Yeah.
plantings right there next to the fence,
Yes.
which is green instead of black, right? But it can block the reflection off of the surface just as easily.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to...
There are options, right? There are options, and I think a permit can give the applicant options to address the core issues.
And we can address that, I guess, later with respect to what you said. A 10-foot type A buffer might knock somebody out, whereas you could put this glare screen on and achieve the same thing, but we can worry about that later.
Well, I will say, as the UDO amendment is written, the 10-foot type A buffer is required regardless. The special use process does not allow for town council to reduce the minimum standards. It only allows for additional standards to be added.
Okay.
So, I think in some of your pictures you illustrated some neighborhoods maybe in town that wouldn't never be able to add lights because the tennis courts are so close to the houses. Is that correct?
Yes. Just the Bella Casa one. Well, then, there's probably not 10 feet in Miramont on this. You think there's 10?
There's definitely 10 feet, yeah.
Okay. It's hard without a scale.
What'd you say?
Theoretically, right?
What'd you say?
On number 5, on the 10-foot, we got an or after 10-foot type A, or keeping privacy screen.
Yeah, I guess my comment was going to be to, as we review these plans and look at these developments, I mean, Bella Casa, I think, is a huge development, right? I mean, we're on phase 14 now. They have a tennis court that they will never be able to put lights on. Unless they bulldoze and buy other stuff and move stuff around, right? I mean...
They have other amenities,
But
right?
yeah, I mean, the lighting, over the fields. So people are out there at night in a tennis court because of the lighting over the fields, I guess.
Is that enough to, I guess...
There's parking lot lighting nearby, and they would be able to go up to 10-foot candles. They just would not be able to exceed that.
So for
What
number...
were you saying about that, Mr.
I was just saying that just more kind of attention to this detail when we have developments coming. I know we've recently approved some larger developments as well. I mean, tonight, Horton Park Pudge, if they put an amenity like this, maybe we try our best not to back it right up to houses.
Would so I'm looking at the formula for the lumens, and I'm not an expert in lighting at all either, but would an addition of something like this formula help solve the glare issue?
I cannot answer that question.
I can tell you that the equipment we have right now will not measure it, just from a compliance standpoint. the current equipment we have would not measure it. It measures foot candles, we measure it at the property line, and it's a pretty easy measurement, but we don't have the expertise to deal with what I read, in that document.
You were gonna say?
I was just gonna say, as I think you suggested already, number 5 to be and/or a glare fence.
Or maybe
And/or,
other
to give us some-
appropriate glare reduction measures.
Yeah,
I think the challenge is gonna be, how does staff enforce something
yeah, I know.
that's vague?
Yes.
We would need to have, alternate suggestion. But I think, well, let me take the other side of that thought. A 10-foot type A buffer, is it a hardship?
I don't think so, because it's from here to you,
Yeah.
is the width.
I mean-
Typically, there should be that zone.
I don't know that an or is necessary. I think it's reasonable.
Okay, we can leave it.
That would be my thought, is I think it's reasonable regardless to expect to have a 10-foot type A, as has been, and that's certainly something easily enforced or checked when someone has a permit application or something else. They would need to make sure that that's planted and functional.
I'm fine with this at this point, you know.
And I think the
I
guidance...
think they could, I mean, we have the option of requiring the glare fence if so we so desire too.
Well, and
We don't
that's
have to
right,
say
the
no.
guidance would be, make sure the permit application handles as many of the possible objections as can
Yes.
be. So if it's plantings at the fence, or if it's a wrap around the fence of some type, you know?
We can require it as it comes up.
I think
Or-
that's part of the permit application.
Yeah, we can make it more strict,
Yeah.
so we wish.
Yeah. Because it's special use permit.
Mhm.
There's no right associated with this.
Correct.
Yeah.
For existing
For existing,
facilities.
for existing facilities.
We can require it if we so wish.
Mhm.
I guess I'll make a motion that we approve this UDO amendment.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the UDO amendment as submitted. Is there further discussion on the motion? All right, I think lots of good comments tonight, so I'm sure staff made some notes and neighbors made some notes. And with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. And I'll pause for a moment for those of you who stuck around. Thanks for hanging around tonight. Thanks for coming out and seeing your government at work.
Not fast as last time.
Well, that's everybody.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Look at the students.
Mm. They were out here, they were going to talk about.
I know, it's cool.
There were big ones around.
Is it holly? Are those hollies there?
It was like cedar things or...
All right.
Arborvitae.
Give them still.
They're arborvitae.
I think real quick.
All right, we're gonna now continue. We have no old business, no unfinished business. Now we move into new business, and Ms. Rayfield is ready for us because she wants to tell us about the Southwalk Townhomes Master Subdivision Plan. How are you, Ms. Rayfield?
I'm good. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm presenting to you the Master Subdivision Plan for Southwalk Townhomes, located at 0 and 804 South Salem Street. I will orient you here to the site. South Salem Street here, leading up to downtown. Over here, we have the Sugarland Run subdivision. Over here is the Salem Creek Townhomes currently under construction, almost complete. Along here to the south is the railroad tracks. The project is approximately 7.13 acres. The current zoning is planned unit development conditional zoning per case number 17CZ17. The 2030 land use map recommendation is medium-high density residential / office employment and medium-density residential. Let's see here, the site consists of 2 parcels located on the north side of South Salem Street. And just to let you know, we have shifted here, and this will be the case for, I think, the remainder of the slides, is that now our north is going to be this way, Salem Street here, Sugarland Run over here, Salem Creek Townhomes here. And just also to let you know, this purple here is just the right-of-way dedication that was provided during the rezoning. So that's just to let you know what that purple is referencing. The property proposed for development is wooded. The existing residential dwelling and accessory structures over here will be preserved on a separate lot. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on October 30th, 2017. The neighborhood meeting report is attached. The Southwalk Townhome project will provide 22% of the total area for RCA, and landscape buffers at 22% equates to 1.58 acres. The project will extend existing public facilities. During the 2017 rezoning, there were architectural standards and other conditions approved with that rezoning. Those are included in your packet. I will highlight that the maximum density is 5.6 dwelling units per acre. Again, there are 40 lots proposed with this development. Those dimensional conditions are included in there for the townhome. You'll see those in that staff report. They are, other than anything that I called out regarding the density, they are typical architectural requirements. I'm just going to go ahead and go over the site a little bit here with you, as well as then get into some of the buffers. So again, access here on Salem Street. There is a 4-foot concrete median here that will limit this access point to a right-in, right-out. There will be a stub here for future connection to development here. What we have is just an approved site plan. There is no development currently going on, but this will provide for that connection. And then over here, we'll continue the connection with the Salem Creek Townhomes. Essentially, this will lead back out to Salem Street and offer these residents a full movement in and out further north rather, on South Salem Street. Along the northern portion of the pod, here is our RCA. There is also a 50-foot stream buffer here. Along the sewer easement here, there is also a greenway easement that has been along with the site. Along Salem Street, we have a 30-foot type A buffer here. Along here is a 10-foot type B buffer. And then right in here, it widens to a 15-foot type B buffer. These were conditions based on the rezoning. And again here, 10-foot buffer along here. Parks and Cultural Resources Advisory Commission met on July 26, 2017, and recommended fee in lieu of parkland dedication for this small site. Again, there is a greenway easement along the existing utility easement on the north side of the property. Also, this is consistent with the Greenway plan. We have, the proposed master subdivision plan is consistent with the Apex Transportation Plan. I believe we've gone over access and circulation. The proposed Southwalk Townhomes Master Subdivision Plan is in compliance with the standards provided in the UDO and the approved zoning conditions, and therefore planning staff makes the recommendation for approval. I will be happy to answer any questions at this time. The applicant is also here to answer any questions that I may not.
Questions for, Ms. Rayfield?
I had one about, the Greenway and, does it allow for, it's a Greenway easement and access to the Greenway?
Yes, I apologize when I
couldn't tell from
say,
the map when I was looking at it earlier, okay.
yes, there is language in there that it is an access easement.
Okay, so there'll be a trail, if we build the Greenway, there'll be a trail from like the kiosk area or near the lake?
It's not that it runs back along here, along the sewer easement. It's not that it'll be constructed with this, it's that it'll be,
Right, but there's a way to get from the road to the, Greenway, some kind of space.
It's part of the Greenway plan. It provides a missing connection that was needed.
Right. I'm just referring to the neighborhood to Greenway, the spur.
Yeah, you can see the purple, and I'm sorry, I don't know why the quality of that document is terrible, but I pulled it up in the staff report and I can read it.
Okay.
And it says, it's already been, provided, it's an existing 30-foot public utility easement and Greenway easement, that it's connecting to from the street along the utility easement. So if you can see the purple dashed lines, at the back, there's purple dashed lines that you're too far back. Go down.
I don't see it.
Right there, it goes to the road. Yes, there you go.
There
you go.
Okay.
Sorry, and I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with the quality there.
Okay, so it does have connection.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Good call.
I have a question, related to, if you can remember, and I don't know if you were here, Sarah, but Diane will remember, we talked about that, parcel which had a similar shape, long and deep, narrow on the street, but deep, and over on Center Street, and we were looking at possibility that a neighboring current street lot that's more square, if one day wants to be developed, may be hardshiped because of the use of the main road. And one of the things that I'm wondering is the east-west connection that's left as a stub, there with the little wart, semi-cul-de-sac, whatever you call those, can that be used to create future connectivity to the lots to its immediate south? So if someone were to come...
Here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a historic house.
Uh-huh.
So it's unlikely that would be the case. I am not sure on the approved site plans here that there's connection, a stub out here. Is that what you're asking essentially? Is
I am
the plans here?
I am asking if that lot that's there with the historic house and the lot that's immediately to its east, if they were to be combined and someone wanted to develop those, could they be then tied to the street so that there's not a problem trying to create main road access? And by the way, we know historic homes move.
Sure.
Because one just did.
Yeah, but this historic house has all that frontage on that street that's being built. Not there, not Salem. The street going in,
Right.
no.
The north-south
I'm at-
street.
Oh,
There
here,
you
I'm
go.
sorry, no.
It has plenty of frontage.
That's all frontage.
But you're asking, can they get into it?
So if they were to develop,
Would you, well, so let me ask it a different way. Would you / Russell be, allow them to connect onto that new proposed street right there? Is that too close to the intersection, or would that be okay?
No, because if you look across the street, there's townhomes all the way really close to Salem Street.
Is that, alley access?
No, they're front.
Are you talking
loaded.
about driveways?
Lot 1, can you see Lot 1 on there?
Yep.
So you
Well, I
go-
do on my screen.
So you can go right across the street from Lot 1 and start lining up townhouses
So,
on that 30-foot, on that right-of-way, the
Okay.
50-foot right-of-way.
So, that lot notwithstanding, what about the lot that's not pictured but immediately to the east?
It would connect to the turnaround street, the half cul-de-sac looking thing.
Okay.
And you would come into the site and then come back with a cul-de-sac that would end prior to connecting to Salem Street. It could be done.
Okay.
I think is that the vet hospital though?
Yeah, I was just saying that a
So I don't believe that's gonna happen, but maybe in 40 years the vet won't be
You get
there.
where I'm coming from.
Sure, it could be done. That's why the stub's there.
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna have this site plan box somebody in from being able to do something creative. If they wanna buy those lots, move a historic house, and connect in. I just want to make sure they can do that and not be told you can't put an access to Old US 1 because it's a major collector road. And I'm going to make sure that we're keeping that in mind on this site plan.
Yes.
Okay. And immediately to the west of Lot 1, there's a lot that has Mr. Upchurch's name associated with it. Is that, I don't quite understand, is that he has a current driveway, right?
Yes, so I know this history because I used to live in Sugarland Run.
Mm-hmm.
They were the original owners of all the property where Sugarland Run was developed.
Mm-hmm.
So they kept their house and they stayed living there, and they have a driveway onto Salem Street, and it's not really big enough to redevelop into really anything. I think it'll
Okay.
probably stay as it is.
So there's no option for them to one day put 4 townhomes on that one? If they wanted to?
Not with our current ordinance that requires a public street. I mean,
Or off of the alley even, behind?
there's not an alley. I don't know what the
Well,
lines are,
between
but
4 and
there's-
5, what is that?
That's parking, guest parking. And then that's...
Between lots 4 and...
between here?
What is between lots 4 and 5? Is that not an alley?
There's parking here, and then that's essentially...
It's just open space.
Just grass.
It's just green grass? Oh, okay.
I can go to the landscape plan and see.
Okay.
There's plantings there, but...
I want to make sure that in all site plans going forward that we're looking at things like that. When we see a long lot, especially if it wraps around a little bit, that we don't end up accidentally boxing somebody in from potentially tying in, so they can flip, instead of having to drive on the main road, they can flip it around and have access from the backside. So, and if we've ensured that we've done that here, then I'm satisfied.
I had another question, it can be from this screen too. The part that kind of goes away from the Sugarland Run properties, kind of near the, was that done because of the opposition from Sugarland Run to this development, and that to get them a little bit away from the
No.
houses?
It's a wetland, I think.
Oh, it's
No.
Stream.
Yes.
It's a required stream buffer, so when Sugarland was developed, again, sorry, I know about it because I was there, they did not have we didn't have stream buffers in our ordinance, and so those lots and the houses actually have stream buffers on them.
Okay.
So this is the other half of a creek.
So that's why, but now they're further away from the flood.
The result is, yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else for Sarah, then I'll refer the matter back to council for a possible motion.
I do have a question of the developer, if we could...
You set me up there.
No, I didn't.
You sat quiet. You fooled me into thinking you had
It's
no
very rare.
questions.
I just thought I'd give you a happy time, a happy minute.
Thank you.
Over.
That was quick. Sorry, go ahead, Councilman. Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you. When we did this rezoning, typically now we ask for pre-configuring the houses for solar, which means dropping a metal conduit from the attic to a distribution, where the distribution is for the electricity. And I know you don't have to do this on this because we are at site plan, but I wanted to ask if you could commit to providing that option so that as things go forth, or even if buyers come in and want to buy a house with solar, if they could easily fit it in. That's my question.
Yes, sir. Councilor Jensen, after the discussion on the previous zoning case, Mr. Tucker and I consulted about that, and they are more than willing to provide a conduit from the attic to the electrical box in accordance with your town installation memo that I believe is out there defining the installation of that.
Thank you for mentioning it. Yes, there is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Can you identify yourself?
Yes,
for the
forgive
record?
me. My name is Tommy Craven. I'm with Priest Craven and Associates. We're land use consultants in helping SBTD Joint Venture LLC with the preparation of the plans.
Thank you, Mr. Craven. All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
given
I
that,
will
would you
not-
like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. And thank you very much again. I don't know that we can add it as a condition, but he did offer that.
Yeah.
So we've got it in the record. Thank you.
And I know they will.
Yep.
They're good people.
Is there discussion on the motion to approve? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, that passes unanimously. And that concludes new business number 1. New business number 2 is now the Apex Code of Ordinances, Section 4-3, related to the keeping of miniature pigs within dwellings. I'm sure all those people hate they left, because this is the dessert.
It is.
For the night. Let's see, who gets to present this? Mr. Drew Havens. All right,
Wow.
Mr. Havens.
I won't take any offense, given my prior career, but anyway, so this is,
I know.
sorry, Officer Farmer. So we did have a citizen request in November to have council consider modifying our ordinance to allow the keeping of miniature pigs as pets. We did some research on that. I drafted a change in the ordinance, and you have that in your agenda package. And basically, it puts some conditions on the keeping of the animals related, particularly the number of them, no more than 2. They have to be neutered once they're reach the age of 8 weeks. The science is they want them neutered as early as possible.
4 is usually the recommended.
Say again?
I think it's 4 is usually recommended.
All right, 4 is the recommended, so the 8 weeks was the max. No more than 20 inches in height when fully grown, kept within the dwelling unless outside in a fenced area or on a leash in a manner required for dogs. So basically it's a dog that looks like a pig. I'm not going to repeat that, Mr. Purvis, thank you. So anyway, the gentleman that brought this to us, I guess that, they're not, people that have pet allergies are not sensitive to pigs. They are very well trainable. They are highly intelligent animals, so they actually can be litter box trained and all that. So planning committee met, discussed this issue, unanimously recommended to council consideration of this ordinance change.
All right, thank you, Mr. Havens. I'll just begin by saying my sister kept a pet pig, so I have actual first-hand experience from staying at her house for 10 days over 3 different visits. And I found that while at first it was very, very strange to see a pig walking in the house and behaving just like a dog, would jump over the sofa even, or even try to climb in your lap. I found that pig was smart, very smart, that the pig went outdoors, minded his own business, didn't care about the neighbors, didn't bark at everything that moved, didn't bark when the doorbell rang, and I was really surprised at how good a pet that made. I didn't want one myself, but I actually found a place that I didn't think I had, which was to say, I think a pig can make a good pet, and within the right confines or restrictions, I think it's reasonable. So I'm in favor of this, and I just wanted to say that because I have that first-hand experience.
Well, I do. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to offer that up. That's all.
I do have a near first-hand experience with my nephew and his wife, who were yuppies, and that was the pig at that time was the yuppie pet.
Yes.
So they got their pig, and they're very, very intelligent animals. That's what they found. As a matter of fact, he learned when they went out how to open the refrigerator door.
They're too smart.
And he found the squeeze ketchup bottle and proceeded to graffiti their house when they came home. Now, Wilbur was the pig's name, and Wilbur made it through that one. and continued to be their pet. He did get really sick, and they had to send him off to Stanford Vet School to revive him, and they did get him revived, but then they had a child. And then Wilbur was set down a big notch. And eventually, Wilbur ended up going to, there is in Virginia, a used pet pig farm.
Wow.
Where my nephew had to write a check every month.
Wow.
To take care of the...
Story.
This is absolutely true story. And I thought, if I ran a used pig farm, I would take a picture of all the, line up all the pigs, and all of them that looked the same, I'd get rid of all but one. Because the yuppie's not going to come back to get their pig. But anyhow, Wilbur lived there for some time, and then they finally got a note that Wilbur unfortunately went off to pig.
Went to live on a farm.
Went off to the pig in the sky.
All right.
But it was, and he was they are very, very, very smart animals. There's no doubt about it. Matter of fact, I'd hate to compete with them for the SAT.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I have a little bit of discussion. So, the rest...
Well, before you continue, there's a motion, so let me see if there's a second.
I'll
Is there-
second that.
Okay, so we have a second, so we have a motion and a second. All right, continue with the discussion on the motion.
So, basically, we're not limiting how many, except for this one. And my question is there a reason for that? Because we're limiting this to 2, and we have to make sure that they are neutered, but we're not requiring that for any of the others.
Can't speak to any of the other animals. 2 seemed to be the max that the citizen was looking for, and thought that was a reasonable limit to put on this kind of animal.
What was the reasoning behind the neutering? Because they recommend that for cats and dogs, too.
Yeah, they're not as aggressive.
Okay.
Kind of like the guy that watches over the harem.
They are a farm animal, so they can be aggressive when left to themselves.
Okay.
All right, well, any other discussion? And I think it's an interesting question you asked, so I don't want to dismiss it outright, but it's an interesting question. I think in this case, they were trying to find out what would be a reasonable limit that they could get. What's the minimum that they would be happy with and get something passed so that they can adopt a pig? So, if there's no other discussion, all right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor indicate by saying oink. 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 All opposed, say no. All right, that passes unanimously.
We need to continue the rest of this meeting.
Wow.
And it's not even 10:30 yet.
Having concluded all of our regularly scheduled open session items, I'll now entertain a motion for a closed session to consult with the town attorney regarding the matters H.H. Trinity Apex Investments LLC et al. v. Town of Apex and Upright Builders Incorporated v. Town of Apex. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
All right, is there a second? I think I heard that.
Yeah. First, I'll be second.
No discussion? All right, all in favor to go closed session indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, we're now going to closed session. Let the public be aware there are no more items on the agenda tonight, so you're welcome to stick around if you want to, but there's nothing else for us to talk about in open session. Thank you.